Hello and welcome to any future combo lords joining me for this combo class live video. As usual, to any future viewers, although these streams are a bit chaotic still, stick around because we always get up to some fun shenanigans. There will be some math to share, of course. There will also probably be some morning wildlife because it's very early here for me. It's not even 8 a.m. yet. I was just up early and I have fun doing these streams, and we might see some extra birds, or maybe just hear them. May see some extra squirrels or things because it's the morning. They're waking up looking for some snacks and breakfast and such. And in case we need any breakfast here too, we did set up a campfire in the last stream, and I've tried not to destroy it, although the TP fell a little bit. We can reassemble it mildly. And with that little miniature campfire, I did yesterday go on a little mission with a friend, and after taking a little nice trip by the marina, quite beautiful, um, I got some stuff at a store, and I got some sausage-like things, although they're called hot links, but got me questioning what the difference between hot links and sausages are. Is it just the hotness? Is it the largeness? Where's the line? If you have a mildly spicy, mildly large dog, do you call that a spicy hot dog or do you call that a mild hot link? In any case, we got that. And we also have some marshmallows. Now, marshmallows aren't really a great breakfast food, but I could put one in my cup of coffee I have back there. That would be pretty nice. So, just because if we have a campfire, regardless of whether it's breakfast or not, we're going to have to eat at least one toasted marshmallow. We might not do a whole marshmallow roasting tutorial now because I don't know if I should eat like 10 marshmallows for breakfast, but we'll at least cook one or two of those. Now, before we light the fire, let's chat a little bit. Someone's wondering if I'm a serial killer in the comments. No, I'm just a strange, weird, I don't know, maybe a punk mathematician or something. I don't know. I'm a nice guy, though. There's a lot of chaos around here, but I don't cause any malicious harm. I'm good. Combo class is a zone of peace despite the chaos. Um, so, and where am I from? We are in California right here, right now, in the Bay Area. So not that far from what's called the Bay Area estuary, where it's a little separated part of the California coast that dips in, and the water's a little different there because it's a mix of fresh water that comes in from streams and salt water from the ocean. And having a mix of salt and fresh water causes slightly different climate, also different types of weather. It's normally like pretty mild here, although it can be like foggy once in a while, and you get certain other patterns, but normally pretty nice weather. Right now it's pretty cold, so I was gonna put on another layer until I remembered that the fire will heat me up. Um, and yep, a killer in number series. Here's what I don't want to kill any numbers. I want to kill some letters. I want to kill C, X, and Q. Those letters aren't doing anything. So those ones I want to kill. I want to kill certain things about the way corporations wrap things in plastic. I want to kill. I don't know. It's hard to think of things I want to kill. I like things. So, hello to everyone who is joining me here. And before we light up these things, let's first listen to the bird song a moment and be thankful for it because I had written down all my thanks on the whiteboard back there. But we're going to have to wipe the thanks list clean, not because we're not thankful about it, but because I'm going to need my whiteboard later today when I'm filming. So later today, I think what I'm going to film that I already filmed the intro for is the sequel to my negative bases video. Now, there's going to be a lot of episodes that touch on weird numerical bases on the main channel, and I don't touch on that as much in the shorts because it's kind of hard to explain weird bases in under a minute. But on the main channel, when I get to go fully in depth in my things, there's a lot of cool bases to explore. And, like half a year ago, I was like, I'll probably make an episode about weird bases. And then I was like, okay, I got to split this into one about negative and imaginary, and then all the other stuff. And then I was like, wait, no, I got to split the negative one from the imaginary one. There was enough to talk about just negative bases. That was already some amount of minutes episode. So then I split those, and the imaginary bases is going to come because there are a few imaginary bases. You can make base 1 plus I, but you can make the even cool. Well, that one's really cool because it makes this fractal, so it needs to be popped into there. But the more practical, if you can call it that one, probably is base 2I. And base 2I is super cool. It's like if you're going to take binary and find a distortion of base 2, you kind of have a lot of options. You could go -2, you could go 2i, you could go 1/2, you get the square root of 2. So imaginary bases is going to be a story for another day, because first I want to go into the half of what's up with fractional and irrational bases. And everyone's been super excited about base pi, and I have bad news for everyone super excited about that. It'll be in the episode, of course. It's a good example of a transcendental number to be used for a base. But transcendental numbers like pi and e aren't going to be as useful or cool necessarily. There's not as much coolness as we can get out of them as we can get out of algebraic irrational bases like the golden ratio or the square root of 2 or the cube root of 2 or the square root of 3 or stuff like that. So all of those will be together in the episode I'm going to finish filming today. But bad news to pi lovers. I love pi too, but base pi isn't as cool as the golden ratio base or base square root of 2 or stuff like that. Now, yeah, we're going to find a lot of cool ones because there's also base 3/2. There's also base 1/2. We're going to go into those ones as well. And to whoever leaves polynomials for me to solve, that's not the type of questions I answer in streams. That's pretty boring for me to just solve one random equation in one field some person has. Feel free to ask me bigger scale questions, though, about my opinion on things or my favorite of certain things or things from my past or whatever like that. Now, the birds kind of paused. I was going to say we should listen to the birds, but when they start coming back in action, we'll listen to them and be thankful, and I'll wipe off that board so we have some room to film on my big whiteboard later. Now, I'm also buying some more whiteboard stuff. I already said how I bought a lot of dice and whiteboard markers because that got voted for. So that should be here in like a week or less. I don't know. And I also bought a bunch more math books because math books are good. Like I bought you get them used. So, well, I do. So I don't have much money. So books I buy, you can find books online. Everyone knows that. You can find a PDF of a book online if you need. I'm not the one who told you that. Everyone already knows that. But actually, some are hard to find, but like textbooks. But you can find PDFs of a lot of books online if you really need it. But I like to have paper books, and it supports publishers, and just having a paper book is good to delve into. So what I'll do is I'll look up books I'm interested online, and the ones that I can get for including shipping less than $10, I'll be like, cool, I'm getting that book. And then the really expensive ones, I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to maybe find a PDF of this online or something. Now, I'm a writer. I think supporting publishers is good. I hope to make money off writing someday, but you got to have your mix of maybe you're going to look up a book here or there, just get the PDF, and then try and buy a few paper books, not only to support the publisher, but because having a paper book is a pretty quality learning experience and even just a meditative experience. And as someone asked if I studied math, and I have taken classes in it, but I've gotten most of my deepest studying from paper books and from online articles and from my own investigations in my paper blank notebooks and my blank computer documents, which aren't blank anymore. And someday I'm going to need a very trusted member of my team to go through all of my documents because they're a chaotic mess, but I write like 20 pages of random notes a day that really need to be sorted. Someone said to suggest a book for someone interested in the basics of number theory. I'm going to suggest, I've suggested this before, but I don't mind suggesting it again. The Book of Numbers by John Conway and Richard Guy. I don't have my copy right here, but I had it out in the last stream, I think, like my copy of it. But that's a good beginner-ish. It touches really deep concepts, but it does them in a playful, digestible way. And it's really good. Now, other ones for number theory, if you want a kind of playful, lot of number games, not more explaining number theory, but just a lot of fun quirks. A good one is the book, what is it called? Wonders of Numbers, or The Wonders of Numbers, maybe, by Clifford Pickover. And about the computer science question, I didn't study computer science and don't know as much about that. I know a small amount about the theory behind it, but I don't know how to make programs. So that's something I would like to work with more people on, to whoever knows about computer science, who, if anyone knows how to run big batches of numbers, testing things about not finding giant primes, but being able to, for smaller, strange functions, have, computer lists of being able to check or know which things have what prime factorizations and play tricks with those. Whoever wants to help me test large lists of numbers, I have some equations or functions I've invented that might be interesting. Um, and someone's asking, math, do I enjoy it more for its practical purposes or more abstract patterns and ideas? Personally, maybe just because I know more about that half of it, but the more abstract part probably. It's kind of sometimes defined as applied math versus pure math. That's one of the names for the distinction. Of course, it's a Venn diagram, not in a blurry one. But I would say that I am personally more interested in finding out something cool about a number than in seeing how that thing about the number helps us invent the next phone or whatever. So there are numbers hiding in all of our technology that help us and inside all businesses, how they run, and numbers hiding a lot of places. But I'm more interested in finding the pattern about the number myself, and someone else can apply that for me. With that said, I do like certain aspects of science that could be defined mathematically. Like I like scientific reactions or chemical reactions, and I like nature, and you can look for math in those. And to whoever is saying, people who may want to help as software engineers, you can feel free to look up the contact link on my page here. There is my email in the contact link on this channel. Of course, random fans, try not to spam me there. You can just put your comments here. But anyone who wants to find a way to help with the combo class in a way, like if you know programming, if you know any animation, if you're really quick at editing things, if you want to just help, post my videos on other sites or whatever, then email me there. So I think that's most of the questions. Oh, one more was with which mathematicians I admire the most. So that's a good twist on a question because I've gotten asked like best mathematicians and stuff like that. This is closest to favorite when you're asking which I admire the most. Because there are some like really great mathematicians who I don't necessarily know enough about their life story or their arc to know exactly how I admire how their work fits in or whatever. I greatly admire Euler, who is also probably the greatest mathematician of all time, Euler, but pronounced more like Euler. And he was brilliant. And even after he went blind, he wrote many, many pages of brilliant proofs. So I really admire him. I really admire Ramanujan, who was an Indian mathematician who wasn't formally trained and somehow invented from scratch, like not only all the right rules he needed to make proofs, but insane, brilliant formulas that were so ahead of their time that most people didn't even believe they were real or related to anything, but they were accurate. I really admire John Conway, who played a lot of numbers or games with numbers and just games in general that led to number theory. And people keep asking where I'm at. I said that earlier, but this is the Bay Area of California. So those are probably three mathematicians I greatly admire. I also just really like certain people who have not necessarily had as big of an impact on the theorems they invented, although they did invent cool ones, but not as big of an impact with the theorems they invented, but who wrote some brilliant things just sharing good ways of describing fun math stuff. So I really admire this guy Raymond Smullyan, who wrote like tons of logic puzzles, lived till his 90s, had a lot of quirks that I have. Like when I looked him up, I was like, that's weird. Is this an alternate dimension of me? Because it was like he plays piano, he does magic tricks, he loves math, he's very silly. And I was like, that sounds like me. So I really admire him. He wrote tons of books that are like fun little fantasy tales that are secretly types of math. And just his like philosophies and stuff. I really admire this guy Clifford Pickover, who came up a minute ago, who wrote tons of books on different subjects, many of them touching math. I really admire some weird people. So this is going outside mathematicians. I really admire the stuntman Steve-O, because I relate to him with. I used to have some addiction issues with alcohol. I was an alcoholic for a while, but I relate to a lot of his path of doing crazy things, and then having to quit certain parts of your lifestyle while still embracing the part of you that wanted to be chaotic. And he's also probably overall throughout his lifetime added up to like the craziest stuntman of all time. I really admire Gucci Mane, the rapper. He came, he did. I'll go into that story another day. I really admire a lot of musicians of many genres, including like classical and rock and various stuff. But I just had to say I really admire Gucci Mane. So I really admire a couple of random people in other fields as well. Um, I'll go into that another day. Now, we need to clear a little space so we could light this little campfire in a minute. It's not going to last very long because the campfire, as we can see, we don't have big sticks. We have a ton of mini sticks and a few more on the side that I can feed it with. But the only big stick, I think I need to save this because I need a bigger fire pit or a saw to cut it in half. Plus, I need to be more ceremonial with this piece. Because to those of you who are following the main channel, which hopefully is all of you, most of the burning clocks in the intro are this one shot. I've used a few burning clocks in the intro, or two so far, but one of them that's in most episodes is this one clock shot of a clock zooming in, dice and stuff on the side. It says grade -1 on a piece of wood under that, and then it all lights on fire. Well, this is the piece of wood that said grade -1 on it. You can still see the grade -1 there. So this is an important piece of wood. I'm going to have to wait to fully burn it for like our super ceremonial thing, like at the end of grade -1 or something. Someone's wondering how they can contact me. Now, I don't have time to just chat with fans. I'm getting busier and busier with this. But if you want to, and sorry to plug this for like 20 seconds, but I am putting out a Patreon in a few days, and some of the higher tiers are going to relate to easier ways to contact me about your questions so you can get like more thorough knowledge. That's just like for higher tiers on there. The smaller ones have a bunch of bonus videos and stuff. That's coming out on December 1st. But how to contact me in general, it's really only if you have some way you think you can help the show out, because I'm really busy with this show. But if anyone has a way to help the show out that they think, or either a very unique talent or knows one of the things I mentioned earlier that they could help with, then you could find my contact link on the page. There's like, it's on the about section. So what else do we have cooking up in combo class in general? Apart from launching the Patreon on December 1st, that'll be coming out with a main channel episode that's going to be about, I'm not sure what order they're going to come out. On December 1st, it's either going to be the next main channel episode about the irrational bases and fractional bases that I'm filming today, or it's going to be one I filmed the other day that also involves fire. But that time, the reason I evolved to a campfire will be apparent in the other video where I tried to make a fire on a clock as the campfire, as like the fire pit. And you'll see why we evolved to a campfire instead on that episode. That's a snack break, so it's one of the ones that's not as mathematical. You know, it's a little more me having fun with botany, which I know a little less about, so there's less facts and more experiments. But what I did do in the snack break is I got a cactus fruit and burned it over the fire to burn those microspines called glaucids or glochids off of it. And then I was able to touch it and peel it, and I conquered the little micro spines. So those will be fun. And yeah, you guys just got to wait a minute if you want your comment answered, because I usually go off on a rant for 5 minutes and then check the comments. Sometimes it's even a rant for 20 minutes and then check the comments. But yeah, someone going to the comments now, someone mentioned Conway's Game of Life. That is very beautiful and incredible. But I will note that John Conway said that he didn't like that was the only thing he was attributed to, because he actually had some deeper game theory things that are applicable to like tons of math. Although the Game of Life is one of the easier to digest, most fun ones, but the Game of Life is still super beautiful and awesome. We'll probably do a whole episode about it someday. Now someone's asking, do I make music? Yes, I've released many music projects in the past, but they are not under the name Demotro or Combo Class, so they'll be hard to find. I will be releasing links to them at various points over the next year or two, as well as I do still make music. Most of the soundtracks in Combo Class are all my beats. and those are just the beats I've made in the last year or two. I have a lot of music I made before that. I had phases where my life was more dedicated to music than making videos. I released 23 mixtapes in 2013. I'm not joking. That's a whole saga to show you guys someday. So I've literally released like 30 music projects, but my best stuff I still want to drop. So I still have to get back to recording sometime for fun. It won't get in the way of the videos. I already spend time on music, and I have a lot of stuff I want to record. It's kind of hip hop centered, kind of bangers. So not everyone's going to appreciate it or like it, but if you want some bangers, you might like it. There's a little mathematical stuff in the lyrics. It's not like, I find it cheesy to make songs about math, so it's not about math, but there are certainly mathematical references. Um, and a lot of those were under different names, but I can't wait to drop the first Dumotro album. I have all the I mean, I not like all the lyrics that will necessarily end up on it, but I have more than an album worth of lyrics ready. Um, and my friends are a lot more into music than math. I mean, they like math, but they get bored if I talk about it for too long. And so the more music I do, the more you're going to encounter my cool friends in my squad. And they're fun. I'll put them on the stream sometime. My friends are great. My brother popped on the stream for a first time the other day. To anyone who missed that, you can go scan back through the streams and see if you can spot it. He popped on like twice during a stream, but not for too long. I'll introduce you to my family at some point. Now, can't really talk about the whole Enigma machine right now, but maybe we'll go into that in another time. Someone asked if I'm on Instagram. I have not ever shared my private Instagram yet, but since it's so easy to find anyway, I barely ever post on there, so I haven't posted in a long time. I'm not going to write the link and have a billion people go, but if you guys want to go, you can. I don't know if I'll post on there much ever. I haven't in a while, but it is my name here. It is Lord Demotro, which is the same name I have on Reddit, on this combo class subreddit, which people should also post on. So if anyone wants to add Lord Demotro on Instagram, you can feel free, but don't expect me to post much. And yes, it is short about the seventh chord. I will be doing music theory lessons. There will be a whole, like, I like to kind of do like mini series-ish things in my head amidst the main channel episodes. Like some of them, I had this intro called Clock Quest, and those are the ones that are more clock-centered. So ones that are more music theory-centered might get their own like little mini series that comes out every few episodes, because there's a whole journey I need to take you guys on. Because like, not only do I want to teach you the basics and the fun math behind the instruments I play, like piano, guitar, making beats, bass, stuff like that, how lyrics hit rhythms, stuff like that. I'm very mathematical with the lyrics I write. Like I write a lot of rap verses, and I'm very interested in when it's a triplet or when it's a 16th note and when exactly which ones hit the beat. So they're written kind of weird. If you're trying to look at the lyrics, they're like there's random like capital letters and random gaps in punctuation that I'm using to signify when it's like the 2 and 3 and 4 beat or stuff like that. So I want to teach that stuff, but also there's just a lot of music theory that's related to clocks. So I need to modify my clocks because our music works on a 12-note scale. And the really cool thing is that although usually they're ordered by this thing called fifths, in this thing called the circle of fifths, when you see music looking like a clock, you could also just use it to explain what all the notes are. Like here's C /D flat, here's D, and have this wheel that it represents all the possible notes. And then if you talk about the going to the next difficulty of scale, which is going to the fifth, then it would draw out one of those star polygons from my star polygon episode. It would draw out the one that's 7 hops on, because fifths happen to be 7 half steps up, 7 hops on 12 dots. So watch the star polygon episode. Look out for 7 hops, or 5 hops is equivalent drawn in reverse. 7 or 5 hops on 12 dots, and that shape will show up in a music theory lesson. So there's going to be some modified clocks to explain some of the music theory. It'll be cool. Um, because there's a lot to say. There'll be an episode about major and minor chords, the most common type of chords. There'll be an episode about major and minor scales, the most common type of scales. There'll be episodes about what you kind of got to break a rule at a time in music. Like in combo class, my rule is only break one rule at a time. That's what I tell visitors to the combo class. Like if they're like, if there's a fire, if they're like, okay, can we light a fire and break a clock? I might be like, only break one rule at a time, pick one. Um, and it's a good habit legally too to only break one law at a time. Not a recommendation, break zero laws, but you know what I mean. And so it's also a good habit musically to follow a lot of rules of what like common things that sound good, common chord patterns or common rhythms or common instrument types or things that sound good. And then in little sections of your song, break one or two of the rules without like breaking every rule. Don't have the rhythm weird, the chords weird, the instrument weird. Breaking one or two rules can make your song retain catchiness but sound a little different. And so breaking rules musically also can mean expanding what you allow. And so sort of like how in algebra, you're like, okay, first numbers are numbers. And then you're like, no, actually, some of them are called X. And then you're like, okay, no, actually, some of them do this thing. No, actually, okay, you can't square root the negatives. No, actually, sometimes you square root the negatives, but it's a different thing. And then it's kind of like that, where you're like breaking the rules to expand it. When in music you're like, okay, we're gonna like count in fours. Okay, sometimes we don't count in fours. Okay, we're going to do chords like this. Okay, what if we actually changed the chord and made it what's called augmented or diminished or something like that? So you're kind of breaking a rule at a time. Or like a simpler version is like, okay, chords have three notes. Okay, what if we added a fourth? So you're breaking a rule. And then a big rule to break is going to be, what if we didn't cut an octave into 12 notes? Because we cut it into 12 for practical reasons, but there are other alternatives. Someone's wondering which countries I visited. I haven't had the chance to travel much, although I've gone camping throughout California like 30 times in my life. I've gone on many fun camping trips, maybe more than 30 times, maybe 50 times. I don't know, a ton of camping trips throughout California. However, I haven't been able to go far because, money and stuff. If I ever have a bunch of money, then maybe part of the combo class budget will be traveling to places that have a cool plant or animal to film. Because right now I'm so invested in combo class that, like, if I think about traveling, my first thought is there going to be a cool plant or animal or something there that I can't get here that I could film there? But I do want to travel more. I've been to Mexico a few times. I have been to a few other states in the USA, but not very far, the ones that are close to California. And that's all. So, I've been to Hawaii once, long ago. So, hopefully I'll get to travel more. Really, I've dreams of there's random neighbors who rent houses and share the yard with us. And while they're nice, if I owned that whole yard, I could like make it a hedge maze. I could plant like 50 weird plants. I could make this whole maze going back to the combo classroom. It would be insane. There would be whole realms over there. And so one of my dreams is if I owned all three of these houses someday, which would be in the distant, distant, distant future. I don't know if that would ever happen. Then I could make it a crazy combo realm. There would be like a whole school worth of space here, practically. That won't work in the near future. My other dream is to buy some land by a river and slowly build a combo castle there that some of you will get to visit. And I like forests and I like rivers in forests. And if I lived by a river in a forest, or even just had land there that I could camp on somehow, even though that's not necessarily legal, then that would be so cool. I haven't been able to go out into nature or take any trips this past year because I got 2 hip surgeries. Despite being 29, I had to get 2 hip surgeries. Long story, hard year. But now that I can walk again, I have the potential to take trips. And unfortunately, when I was going to go to my friend's cabin, which is near some cool lakes and stuff, I got COVID and we had to cancel the trip. Now I'm better from that. But so yeah, I'm still waiting to go on a trip to nature. I did go to the marina by my house yesterday and saw some cool birds. There was a bunch of snowy egrets. There's these guys called blue herons. There's a bunch of cool ones, and I went to this place called the Brickyard that they've modified for humans a little too much. I have footage back in the day when it had some cool stuff there when it was like harder to get to, maybe not allowed to get to, I don't know. And but it was a really cool zone, and it had its landfill that they like made this landmass out of that all these plants and trees grew from. And now they've cut a lot of the trees and made the path easier to go on for some. But there's going to be just like a bunch of random dog walkers and stuff, but at least it still has the name Brickyard worth it because the shore is covered in bricks. So like the part of the landfill over there is all bricks, and so then there's this little beach which you would never swim in. It's like the water looks still by the shore practically, and it's like a little cold sand beach with algae growing. You would not swim there, but algae started growing on the edge there. So then you got like green algae and then red bricks, and it's pretty cool. Um, Let me see if I have a photo of it because I think I tried to take a photo of it. Um, One second. I have other photos of mathy stuff. Yeah, look. Here is the Brickyard. You see, there's green algae, and then it's hard to see the red bricks because they're wet right now and because the camera is hard to show. But there's red bricks on that coast, and that little zone's called the Brickyard. And it's pretty cool. And then here's a shot from a little further where you can see all these like icy succulent plants. So, and here is one of my original cats hanging out with the stray cat who we adopted. They're hanging out. They're friends. Isn't that nice? My cat is in the thumbnail for this stream because when I was setting it up, my little cat Sage came out to help. He likes helping in the combo class, and he finds it curious when there's a bunch of junk back here. One second. I just got a text from my friend. And while I answer this, we're going to listen to some birds real quick, and then we're going to light the campfire. So stay tuned. All right. So who wants to see a campfire? We couldn't get that many birds. The birds are being quiet right now. As a reminder, these we're not going to burn. Although the top of this might be good, the back of it has varnish on it. And that's like, you don't want to inhale the painty type stuff or the certain protective layers that they put that feel slick and stuff or feel colorful. You obviously is a bad sign on wood. And so, like this, for example, is part of the desk. But you're not going to want to burn this part unless you somehow peeled off all that. This part, however, looks maybe burnable. That other part, if it got separated, because that might be pure wood. Now, apart from that, which was kind of hard to separate, we don't have too many big ones. We have like one little big guy in there, but mostly these are little sticks. I imagine it might only, I think it's going to look cool, but only last like 10 minutes, which is okay. That's long enough to fry up a hot link and a marshmallow. All right, so 1 second, I'll light this thing. All right. So here we got some hot links. And I want you to leave your comments on the thoughts of what is the difference between a sausage, a hot dog, and a hot link. Here's a weird thing I realized. So when you think of a hot link compared to a hot dog, you think of the distinguishing factor as the hot link is the hot one. You're like, no, it's the one with hot in the name. But hot dog has hot in the name too. So really, they both have hot in the name. The difference is link. So for some reasons, it's not that you said hot link, it's that you said hot link. Link somehow makes it imply that it's spicy, I guess. So, what's the difference? If you had a if you had one a little smaller than this and a little less spicy than this, would you call it a small mild hot link or a large spicy hot dog or a just call it a sausage and try and keep it vague? And someone says the process. So yeah, what's different about I haven't looked this up. I was just thinking this in the store. So let me know if anyone knows what's different about the process that makes this one get link at the end. And why is it culturally that isn't that I just think that's funny that you think hot is the bit that makes it hot, but that's the part it has in common with hot dogs. It's the link that it makes it hot. So we also have a good cooking stick. Where's that stick I was waving around earlier? Um, Here we go. This is going to be perfect to skewer a dog. Long, thin, perfect stick. Now, let me take a little peek at the comments before we jump into the campfire. So, someone's asking if I know any musicians who break the rules of music. Yeah, a lot of them do. If you hear a song that sounds weird, then that's probably breaking some rule. And by rule, I just mean some of the common first things you learn about what sounds good. Like I'm in 3/4 or 4/4 time. I often use fifths and relative minors. Certain things that are pretty common. Now, I mean, a good example of musicians breaking the rules in a good way is kind of a stereotypical or cliche answer, but the Beatles. The Beatles, in their early career, followed all the rules and made what that era would consider pop music, although now we consider it just like some subgenre of rock, maybe. But back then, their early songs, that type of rock they were making was basically pop music of the era. And then as they evolved and they matured and grew, learned more about music, took a bunch of psychedelics, visited a bunch of countries, they started breaking some rules. And you can hear in their later albums, Revolver and Rubber Soul were the first ones that started like going a little further out of the bounds. And then by the time they get to the ones like Sergeant Pepper's and Abbey Road and the White Album and stuff, they're breaking a lot of rules. And they do it in a good way. Like some rules they break is like um, ways of changing chords more often or with an extra beat than you'd expect, where they step out of a 4/4 time, but you barely notice it. So I would say, although it's kind of stereotypical, the later Beatles albums compared to the earlier ones are kind of good example of learning to break the rules in music without breaking all of them at once. And then you can hear a few of their songs where they tried to break all the rules at once and it just sounds too chaotic. The best ones, they were sticking with a few of the things that sound good. Someone's saying a fear of bears in California they have, and that have I come across bears? Yes, a few times, but not super close. I mean, I've never had like a bear fight or anything. Now, a fun thing to start off about bears before I tell you about my encounters is that people consider encountering a bear to just be one thing, but it really varies what type of bear it is. Now, I haven't researched as much about which bears are more likely to attack you or not, but in terms of if you got into a brawl with one, a black bear is much smaller than the other bears, and a black bear is like that big or something. A black bear would cause you a lot of damage, but a strong adult could probably beat a black bear. I mean, maybe not definitely, but would definitely have a chance, at least, of beating a black bear. And then you get to a grizzly bear. A grizzly bear is incredibly unlikely that you will beat. There might be a tiny chance. They're about your height and way stronger and way bigger in other dimensions and stuff. And then you get to, if you meet a polar bear, you're done. A polar bear will you're completely done. No chance against the polar bear. So I have encountered what I think are grizzly bears. Actually, no, it was a black bear once and a grizzly bear once, I think. So when I was in Humboldt State with my family on a camping trip in the Humboldt Redwoods once, there was a bear in a tree like 200 feet from the campsites or something. And it was this little bear chilling there. And you don't want to mess with the little ones because the main way you'll get attacked by them is either if you are like really dumb about your food, like you have your food just like strapped to the front of you or something, all ready to go, or more likely even if you try and get too close to a baby and the mom comes, the mom bear will screw you up if there's babies around. And so the first time it was a small bear, maybe a baby, or maybe just the black bears are really small. And it was chilling in this shrub thing, like in a little tree, kind of like a small shrub like tree. It was chilling in it. And I went like, my brother and dad went closer. They went like 30 feet away to look at it. And I went like 50 feet away to look at it or something. And it didn't come any closer. And then a slightly scarier time was when I was backpacking with my really good friend. I'll go ahead and call him my best friend. Um, and that was a hard backpacking trip because we backpacked in Yosemite on a really beautiful trail out for a whole day of long hiking. And then we realized the second day that our water purifier had been broken and we had been drinking unpure water from the streams. And it may have given us something that would like super mess up our stomachs that didn't kick in yet. So we're like, we got to get back to society just in case that happens. And we didn't get sick because some of the water there is clean enough, but we were lucky. And so we didn't get sick, but we had to, when we realized that we might get sick, immediately turn back. And we had done really efficient hiking the first day. So we had like miles and miles to hike back. So that was crazy, but it was still beautiful nature. We were by one of those big streams in Yosemite. And when we were hiking back and like just trying to get back to society and stuff, not sure if we would get sick, there was a mom and two baby bears like 50 feet from us, from our trail off in the side. And that was kind of scary. We had bear canisters strapped into our back. And in fact, we forgot the bear canisters. We forgot to return them, I mean. And we brought, like, when we got back to here, to my house, we saw the bear canisters in the car and we're like, God damn it. And we had to mail them back. And so, we luckily with those bear containers, they block the smell out pretty much. And so the bears kind of just like looked at us and weren't that interested in us. So we just kept walking, didn't do anything crazy. So they didn't interact with us, but it was kind of scary that time just because it was a mom and two babies. And that's when the mom can be like, get the hell away from my babies, even if you're not doing anything. All right, so let's see. There's a lot of questions. Now, some of the questions can't answer till grade -2. You'll have to stay tuned. Someone's mentioning Captain Beefheart. He's awesome. I really like some of his early albums, like, oh, a squirrel. Some of his early albums, like Safe as Milk, are really good, like early weird blues rock type stuff. And then he got really weird, and I've never understood the album Trout Mask Replica that everyone in like the music critics all claim it's genius, but I swear they're just like afraid to say it's not because that album's actually sounds really bad to the ears, even though it's musically interesting. Like if you analyze it, just sounds bad to the ears. And a lot of people swear they like listened to it 40 times and then it clicked and then they realized it was the greatest album ever. So maybe me listening to it 5 times wasn't enough, but that album just sounds bad and it's hailed as his best. And he actually has other really cool albums. And then he quit music to become a painter, or a sculptor maybe. Interesting guy. He's also friends with Frank Zappa, who broke a lot of rules. So let's see. Someone's wondering why textbooks are called that. I'm not sure what you mean. It is text in a book, but it's funny that it is basically just using synonyms for the same thing twice, like calling it a book or a text. So a textbook, I don't know. They kind of like they used to call it the something text or the something book, and then they're like, how can we just have a vague general term? We'll mash the two suffixes together. I don't know the actual history, but maybe something like that. Yeah, maybe they should be called fun books and then they'll captivate people. The problem is that textbooks aren't written that fun usually when they could be. So when I write my choose your own adventure textbooks, you'll have fun with them. That's one of my plans for the future is I want to write choose your own adventure textbooks. Um so someone saw an albino squirrel today. Cool. Yeah, I try and point out the squirrels whenever possible, but I'm sure I've missed them. Sometimes some dedicated fan has to make a compilation of all the squirrel moments and also a compilation of all the moments the desk breaks or does something weird, and also all the moments the clock falls. Um, cool. Thank you all, even the folks who have to run. Since that was all the questions, we're going to light our fire. All right. Let me actually run inside for a second and grab some newspaper. This will seriously help make sure the fire works. I'll be back in 1 sec. All right, folks, we're back. Thank you for the patience. I couldn't find any old newspapers, so I got some napkins and I got the lighter we'll need. Let me check if there's any other comments. I love you all for leaving whatever your thoughts are. Yes. All right. So let me fold some of these napkins into the base of the fire, and we're going to make sure it goes. Like I said, there's going to be a brief but cool fire because we have a lot of small sticks and not as many big ones. And you need big logs to sustain the fire, but the small twigs will work for, making a cool start. Now, we're not using any lighter fluid on this one. We're just doing it normal, which is my preferred method. The lighter fluid makes fun footage, but I like camping and stuff, and so normally you don't need lighter fluid to make a fire. Um, so let's clear a little space, figure out our chair situation, and start this up. Oh no. Oh man, I knocked over a full thing of coffee. Okay. Um, well, let's see. Should I just consider that a sacrificial towel? Um, oh man. Okay, so I'm going to consider this a sacrificial towel for now and run it through the wash like 5 times later. All right, there we go. No more coffee trying to creep into the campfire. Okay, it is a chaotic mess back here, as you know, and that's partially just because I've been filming a bunch of wild stuff, and partially how the second half of some grades are going to go. We're getting it. We're probably in the final third of grade -1. So get ready for a crazy final third. And as things expand, I will be able to spend more and more time on combo class, giving you guys cool stuff. Okay, so should move the extra sticks a little further so they don't all catch fire. So this is our extra fuel in case we need it for later. All right, get these dice a little further. Get this extra potato on my table. All right. Now, while I light the fire, we're going to have a moment that's a little quieter. I'm not going to be ranting about math while I light the fire. We're going to listen to birds and flame sounds for a minute. Oop. Now, where was my cooking stick to get that ready? This will do if I can't find my cooking stick, but I had a pretty good one. If I ever lose something, I guess I can always rewatch the stream, but here it is. Okay. So I should prep this first, which is getting these dogs ready. And I got marshmallows there too. And they're really big marshmallows. So check it out. I got this from this cool Mexican market that's near my house that I like to shop at. And they had I don't really like the pink and white ones as much. I like the white ones more than the pink ones. But look how big they are. This is a big old marshmallow. So that's going to be fun to cook. I don't even know if I've ever cooked a marshmallow that big on a campfire. Now, here's my knife. Only for opening packages, not for anything else. All right, and we got some hot links for when we're going to roast them on the fire. We also could try tossing some more foil wrapped stuff in there because that worked really well last time. But I think we'll alternate techniques because last time we did so much foil wrapped stuff. This time we'll do on a stick technique. Remember, folks, do not copy this. To any neighbors watching, the smoke will be temporary. I'm sorry. And this is just me making a campfire, not telling anyone else to do anything with fire. Now, let's see if this lets it catch. We need to get these lower ones, too. smoke. Okay. Let's see if there's enough to catch any twigs. Now, like I said before, one thing you want to look out for is that fire can do really cool dances in front of your eyes. Now, I used to imagine like the shapes in the fire were little characters and little items telling little stories. And it's probably something similar to what cavemen used to imagine, because this was their version of TV. This is, at night, they would do this for warmth and to cook food. And they would look at it like TV. And I'm hearing a nice little crackling sound. When you hear that crackle in the wood, that means you got something good going. And those crackles are usually sap or sometimes air popping out of there. You have to be careful when you hear one of those big that's usually a sap bubble in there getting heated up and popping. Someday I'll have a combustion expert on my team, and then I can light everything on fire and they can make it scientific. I'll do it safely. Like I've said before, I hurt myself on the broken desk, but I've never hurt myself with fire because I actually do it carefully and I have a hose right there for when I need to put it out if it doesn't go out on its own. Well, look at that thing. Do you see that thing? I thought that was a bug. That was an ash. That was cool. I don't know if you saw that. A little thing flew up and down. So it's taking a little while for this guy to go, but we do have a log there and the back is starting to go a little bit. So I actually think this is going to be enough to light it all. It might just take a second. Now, in this time, while I can't see the chat from here really, people have told me to check it on my phone, so maybe I'll do that in a second. How do I check the chat on my phone? Because that would make sense. So I can see you back here and not have to keep running up over there. So gotta switch my account to the bonus channel. And now I gotta go to my stream. It's probably gonna have a little delay. That's gonna be really trippy. If I tried to watch it, it would have a tiny delay because it takes a minute to transmit it over. Yeah, let's watch the stream. Okay, cool. So I can see the comments here. That's good. Oh yeah, I have to mute it. Otherwise, I'm hearing myself a second late. Oh yeah, I have to mute it. Otherwise, I'm hearing myself a second late. Echo. Oh, whoa, now it's feeding back in. It's like making a feedback loop. Oh, whoa, now it's feeding back in. It's like making a feedback loop. Oh, whoa, now it's feeding back in. It's like making a feedback loop. Oh, whoa, now it's feeding back in. It's like making a feedback loop. Can you hear that? That's trippy. Can you hear that? That's trippy. Uh-oh. Stop it. That sounded like the birds, but like an evil version of them once it started getting feedback. Okay, now I'm going to mute it and just look at the comments. And yes, no, not the coffee. Now when I light marshmallows, it's going to, I'm not going to have coffee to put them in. That'll be okay. We're only doing like one marshmallow today. It's breakfast. So that wasn't, smoke my eyes. That wasn't quite enough to light the fire. So we're going to try and go with a few more what are these, paper bag scraps, and see if the paper bag scraps help us out. Now, normally you need your starting little guys really low. It was hard to make a good teepee with all these weird sticks, the mini ones, but normally you need your fire like this as low as possible to start because heat rises. All right, and I'm going to put a couple twigs right on the spots that are burning in case they get the twigs going. In fact, let's put a few twigs on at key spots. The smoke in the eyes. Okay. So far, our fire looks like it's not doing great. So what we're gonna need to do is get a few more easy to burn things and make sure they're really low. Where'd I put the lighter? So where's our easy to burn stuff like card papery stuff? Here's some. We're going to use a little of the desk as well. Maybe this desk part can help us out. If this really helps, this desk part, we could rip more off the desk because there's more of this stuff. Yeah, sometimes when you try and add stuff, you can put it out. So I got to be careful about my additions. Now let's see if that somehow spreads at all, and if we can add any lit cardboards, which will help us a lot. These really thin twigs might help us too. Yeah, that cardboard really helped. That's going to have a better chance of catching them. We're definitely going to need to try the cardboard more. All right. The cardboard's hard to light on its own, but we're trying to play this game without any lighter fluid, so sometimes it takes a minute to get your fire going. All right, let's see if that catches, because that's got a good start in the back. Okay, and now I do have the comments on my phone, so I can see again. My current temperature, I don't know. It's getting warm here, but the temperature is going to be higher closer to this. But here it's pretty cold apart from that. Now I'm warm, but I was cold. And people asking, how am I? I'm all right. Life has been hard this year, but I love you all, and I'm going to have fun streaming. And I'm about to cook some fresh breakfast, so I'd say I'm doing okay. In fact, what I can be thankful for is all the stuff on my wrist while I wipe it off. Because as I wipe it off, I should probably be thankful as well. So what we have here is there were some factorials. I am thankful for alternating factorials having a weird trait about their primality. Now we wipe all these off. Garden fruits, those are awesome. My cat's platonic solid dice, the biggest round clock that's here. And for anyone who wasn't here, these were my Thanksgiving thanks. You got fractals, you got my surgeries went okay, you got isopods, you got all the falling leaves that come down here. You got all the fast growth of the combo lords and how cool the combo lords are. We got flat persimmons, those are great. We got the online encyclopedia of integer sequences. We got colors. We got kitchen supplies that I had, and a list of them, which we didn't use. We ate stuff raw because oh no, we did use some. That helped us with our Thanksgiving feast. And for those saying I should use eraser, it wouldn't get this off. Once the ink stays on there for a few days, it's too hard to get off with one of those normal erasers. At least how the combo classroom makes ink like set into this or something. So the sleeve with a lot of applied pressure sometimes is necessary. Okay. And it's working. Let me aim you back toward the fire more. I'd say it's looking like a success. Let's add some things in the right places to make sure it stays that way. We need to get to spread to this side more. Okay, I think it's time to start roasting the dog. All right. One moment, getting this dog ready. It's hard to split it a little at the top. Hard to aim that stick all the way through it. Didn't need to go all the way through it, I guess, but why not? If you have the dog hanging more than halfway off, you have a risk of it falling. So I overcompensated. Now, about techniques on this, it's actually good to keep your food that you're cooking in and out of the fire, because when it gets really hot, then it can do like burny reactions sometimes. So if you take it off and you see steam coming off it, it's good to sometimes let it do that, like steam off in the air for a second in between you're putting heat. Then there's also different techniques. You get a different thing when you're letting the flames lick it like that, and when you're just in an embery spot that's like an extra hot, red hot ember zone. Those are both good ways of applying heat. A mix of those and a mix of a little time off. And we're going to try and get this fella nice and crisp. See, I like cooking, and you guys don't get to see it because I usually film on the combo classroom and not my normal kitchen. The kitchen is just a normal kitchen. That's more boring than the combo class. But now we can cook in the combo class. All right, let me take a peek at your comments while I'm doing this. If a comet were to hit Earth and I had a 24-hour window, what would I do? Also, real quick to whoever said they missed the wildlife, rewatching the streams helps, especially after they are posted, weirdly enough. After the streams process, rewatching them really helps the type. Whoa, it burst. That was weird. Skin popped. Okay, I'll fry the inside a little. Maybe these weren't meant to take that type of heat. The skin literally just went pop and popped off on half of it. So rewatching them later really helps this channel because it's not on the partner program, and that's the type of watch hours they count. But so that's okay. If you miss stuff, you can always watch it later. But to the answer about the comment about the comet in combo class, I would spend a lot of time appreciating nature and talking to my family and friends and loving them, and with my cats. And I would write down a bunch of crazy thoughts maniacally in case sometime like a time traveler is able to come back and access them or whatever. And maybe live stream for you guys for an hour out of it if I had 24 hours. But I've already died, basically. I came so close to death a year and a half ago once that I'm on my bonus life already, and so all the bonus time is awesome. So that looks pretty cooked. Starting to get like blackish there on parts of it. I'm just gonna try and cook the bottom a little bit. The hard part about dogs is cooking and marshmallows. Cooking the bottom is always harder than the top. Okay, I should have brought some bread or something. I didn't even bring any bread. I'm just gonna have to eat this dog. Well, it's okay. I kind of wanted to just test the potential of the campfire, and it totally works at cooking stuff on a stick. So I'm gonna take the dog off and let it cool for a second. And while the dog's cooling, we're gonna make a marshmallow. Okay. And let's try and go for, these marshmallows might cook weirder. They're like really big. They might be different. I don't know. But assuming it's normal, our goal is to get the outside beige. If you get the outside goldish beige, then the inside's really good. So the beige technique is what we're going for. There are other techniques. You know, if you ever burn it, you can always peel off the skin and make a fresh new little sheep or lamb under it. But we're going for beige and not burn. Now, to not burn, you really have to apply that technique I mentioned where you're sometimes close, sometimes far to give this guy time to steam off. So let's try and get him over here, kind of letting the flames lick, but also trying to be a little close to the embers. And when we see a little smoke coming off of him, we want to remove it a little bit and give it a little time to cool. And like I said, it's way harder to cook the bottom than the top. So you want to like aim for the bottom sometimes because you're going to get the top. Look, we're starting to get a little beige on there. So we're just letting the fire lick it a little bit. Okay, we caught a burn there. We're getting close to disaster. We just got a little burn spot, which is okay. But I want to get the rest a little more beige. Now, you got to be careful, too, at this stage of holding it kind of sideways or it might fall off. Okay, that we're really close. Okay, check that out. We're getting it really beige. All right. Now check out that marshmallow. We burnt a little, but the rest is super beige. I'm going to try and get it a tiny bit more, although I'm, literally and metaphorically playing with fire when I try and go past a good marshmallow to make a great marshmallow. But I think we can get a little more beige without having to burn it, although a little ember burnt a spot of it just by flying on it. Okay, now look at that marshmallow. Now we've gotten this beige layer all around it, and there's a few burn spots, but we've gotten it getting kind of golden brown, and that's when we know it's good. I think give it one last little thing, because this is a big marshmallow. I maybe should have even applied a different, slower technique, because the inside doesn't feel as soft as normally marshmallows do. But maybe that'll be cool. Maybe it'll have like a harder layer on the inside, and then the mushy layer, and then the skin. And this smoke's really making me tear up. Okay, I'd say we're going for that as our marshmallow. Check out that long, crazy marshmallow. This would be good for a s'more or whatever because it's really long and flat once you cook it. Okay, so now we're going to put this aside to cool and test out the dog. Now let me see if you guys left any comments. All right. Thank you all. Now, what we're going to check right here is how this dog we cooked tastes. Sorry to any vegetarians out there. I was vegetarian for 5 years in the past. Right now I eat meat, and I'm eating hot link. All right. Now, I should have brought bread or something. It would be a lot better with some bread and some good mustard, but whatever. That's good. Totally worked. Now, what about our marshmallow? Okay, I gotta move from this smoke. The smoke is really getting my eyes and nose. Yeah, sorry, I look like I just went through like a hailstorm or whatever. That's from the smoke. Now that worked. That was good. And now we're ending up eating marshmallows and playing hot links for breakfast, but that was all I could find that would work on a stick. Leave a leave a comment if there's any cool foods that I should cook on a stick next time. I don't know if any of you played these games called Humongous Entertainment, but some of the only video games I ever played as a kid were these ones called Pajama Sam and Spy Fox and Freddy Fish and stuff. And in Spy Fox 2, there was this weird future stand where every food was served on a stick. Food on a stick. Food of the future. So maybe it'll be like that in the future where everything's on a stick. Yeah. The way you cook a normal marshmallow applied to this leaves, like, the marshmallow was so big, you practically have a whole marshmallow of uncooked-ish marshmallow on the inside, although it's still warm. Then you got this layer of like the creamy marshmallow. Kind of cool though. Okay. Now, campfire's dying out, but that's okay. Whoa. Campfire's dying out, but that's okay because we already got to cook 2 experiments on it. They worked very well. And the rest of the hot link we cooked. All right, guys. 1 second while I eat this hot link and then think of our next topic. So, all right. Probably should pour some water or something on that just to like get the embers fully out real quick. Because now that it doesn't look cool, all the smoke is just getting in my eyes and nose. But we will make more of these in the future, and they will show up in a main channel episode. Well, no, a campfire, that was more of a clock fire, will show up in a main channel episode soon. So, yes, I know that to remove the smoke, I temporarily added a lot of smoke, but that's how it goes. All right, love you all who had to leave. What we're going to do for our next and possibly final topic is going to be, since base pie is not going to get as much of a role in our episode that I'm filming later today, we're going to take a little time to look at base pi, and partially it's an experiment I want to do myself too. I could read about this online, but I forget the details because I was studying all the other bases more. And in base pi, I know there's context related to circles where it could be useful once in a while. So is this smoke or cold? Is it just that cold out? It looked like I'm like taking a giant hit of something every breath. But no, I can't tell if that's campfire smoke or if it's just that cold out. Whatever. There's contexts where base pi could come in handy related to circles. So although we're not going to plan our whole numerical system as a society around something that works for circles, but is bad at describing integers, because here's the thing, all the other bases I'm going to talk about that are algebraic or rational bases, I'm going to show a way to make integers with them, with a finite representation. Base pi, the same way that in an integer base has an infinite amount of digits to represent pi, in a pi base, an integer has an infinite amount of digits to represent. So that's not fun, having every integer have an infinite non-repeating decimal. So base pi is not going to be the star of the show, unfortunately. The transcendentalness makes it bad at representing normal numbers. And so not normal numbers, what that means mathematically, which is ironically similar, but like typical numbers. And so I need to run inside and go to the bathroom real quick, but I want, while you do that, before I explain some base pi stuff, think about contexts where if there's a circle, what are contexts where a bigger circle compared to this, or comparing the circle to itself in some way, where base pi would come in handy. Now, first we got to just say real quick, what would base pi mean? That means that this is the pi to the 0th place, which is 1. So that's actually still 1's place. This means, but you're in base pi, like, I forget how many digits you're even supposed to use, because this isn't the main one I was researching. So I'm assuming you need to use digits up through 3 or something, but because it's a little over that. In any case, this would be our pi to the 1's place, pi to the 2's place, pi to the 3's place, and etc. And this would be, basically breaks down to 1 over pi squared. And ironically, there's 2 lines, but these are the placeholders. That's a fraction. So, got to run inside and hit the bathroom real quick. I want you guys to brainstorm and leave in the comments if you can think of any circumstances where comparing circles could have base pi help us. All right. Let's see if anyone had any thoughts about that. I guess nobody tried the puzzle. That's okay, because we'll look at some thoughts ourselves. Now, if this was a circle with radius 1, then let's think about some of its traits. A circumference of a circle is pi times the diameter. So its circumference would be 2 pi in, I'm going to write the base down here, in base 10. And in base pi, it would be, let's see, 2 pi gives us 20 in base pi. So the circumference there was a little easier to describe, I guess, because we have, let me move you closer. We have, okay, I can unplug the charger for a bit so I can move you closer. I also brought that book I suggested for number theory we might look at later. I grabbed this while I was inside, the book of numbers I recommended. You might take a peek at that. It's cool, but it's not going to be talking about this. This is just other random stuff. So we have 20 is there. And what about the area? That was circumference. Oh, no, yeah, circumference. Which I was like, no, wait, I mean perimeter. But then I guess that's same for a circle. So now we're going to say what's the area. Area is pi r squared. So normally it's pi, r squared here is 1. So normally the area would be pi, but it's square units, but in base 10. And the here pi is 10. Now, what if we make a bigger circle? What size of circle would make an interesting comparison? In general, if this is r, then circumference is going to be pi, 2 pi r in r base. And in pi base, it's going to be pi r squared, which that's 10 r squared. So what if r was like, let's try r as 2 and r as 10. Those will be two good examples that might make an interesting comparison here, because one's our base and one is doubling it. So if radius is 2, we could also try radius being pi, which is trippy, but we could try that. So if the radius is 2, then the circumference is going to be, and then, well, let's just say in base pi. We're talking base pi here. The circumference is going to be 2 pi r gives us 4 pi. But how do we represent 4 pi? Do we need to call that 40? Do we need to go up to, like, what if the radius was 10? The circumference, how are we going to do 100 symbolized, 100 pi's without a digit for that? Pi r squared. So if the circumference was if the radius was for some reason pi, then we would have the area is pi r squared is pi cubed. So that in base 10. So if the radius was pi, that would help. So, because then we could write r cubed is 1,000 in base pi. Let me look at my notes for a bit ago when I was researching this. I did take a note on it somewhere about one of the base pi ones that might work. One sec, gotta find that. Yeah, so basically, it only helps when you have it be a multiple of pi for your. Nah, yeah, it helps if you're in that and you call it a diameter of base pi's 10, then that's saying the radius is pi. So basically, base pi, unfortunately, seems to mostly be helpful. And I'm sure there could be other weird applications of it, but mostly be helpful if you have circles that their radius is also being described as pi. That's like a double pi. It needs to be in the circumstance to help it. But if it was just one, actually, the one thing it does help is comparing the circle to itself. Because if we have a radius of 1, then it says our circumference will be 20. So that's easier to represent without a pi symbol. So I guess one thing it's helpful for is describing what's the relationship between a circumference and radius or diameter of a circle. And maybe what's the relationship of the area, because that we could find a way to do it as well. So yeah, basically it only helps really if the number here isn't is like 1 in their base pi, kind of, which still is 1. But then if we say it's pi in their base pi, it breaks down a little easier. I'll look a little more into the base pi, but it's unfortunately not going to be the start of the episode, because the episode's about representing integers, surprisingly, with weird bases. And base pi can't do that. So it's not as helpful. Now, bases based on square roots and cube roots actually can do cool things, and they're like weird extended versions of binary and ternary and stuff like that, or base 10. But then bases that are transcendental aren't going to be able to do that, like pi or e. Now, one that's interesting is the golden ratio base, and we played around with that a little in an earlier stream, but just as a reminder, if anyone wants to play around with it again in the next couple days, is the golden ratio has a trait where the golden ratio squared equals the golden ratio plus 1. What does that mean in the golden ratio base? Well, the golden ratio squared is the one that's the number 100. So 100 in the golden ratio base, this is in base, what's looks like phi, but it's pronounced phi. So base phi technically is the way the Greek letter is called. I call it the golden ratio base, because if I say like base phi, people don't know what I'm talking about. 100 in that base equals it plus 1 equals 11, because that's one of it. Imagine the golden ratio is there instead of pi. One of it plus 1 is the same as it squared. So in that base, now we have stuff like this too, kind of. We have like 0.9 infinite repeating equals 1 in our system of counting. But so bases do have 2 representations for numbers sometimes, or more. But in this one, it has a really trippy one where 100 equals 11. And so we can write things in a simplified form where you like pick one of those to be your standard, and then you stick with that. And I think the one that's the standard is, let me see, that's a little lower here in my notes. The standard is to stretch out 11s into 100s. So what this means is that since there's a way of doing this at different spots in there too, it applies to different spots. I think you never, and I'll research this a little more before I put in the episode, but I'm pretty sure you'll never need to write an 11 in your representation. You can turn them into hundreds. And so what's really weird is that in my looking at bases, I'm like, hyper 11s are cool. Numbers that are composed of all ones are cool, that have even more than 2 ones, like past 11s. And in this space, you don't get hyper 11s. You don't even get 11s in your representation anywhere. There won't be two ones in a row. So at least for integers, I need to look if that applies to like other stuff too. So we got 100, but it's trippy because to make an integer, you need to use also the way of, if we do like divide this by the golden ratio, we get the golden ratio equals 1 plus 1 over itself. So that's another twist of this identity, that they can turn into each other easily. And this is how you get integers, by like messing with this on different levels and stuff and stacking these together in cool ways by turning these two into a one. And so it's weird, but you can make integers, and you do need to use points beyond the decimal sometimes to use these fractional ones, but you can do it with just a finite representation. You can have a little chunk of digits and it's an integer in the golden ratio base. So there's a lot of weird bases you could make out of algebraic numbers theoretically, but because of that property, the golden ratio base is the one that deserves to go along with the more common ones, like the possible base root 2 or stuff. Now, of course, at the end, I'll mention that what if we had base root -2? Well, that's basically saying base 2i. Well, no, base, that would be, what if we had base square root of -4? That would basically be 2i. And so that's weird. What would that be? That'll be another episode, because it's going to take a whole episode to talk about how cool these fractional and irrational bases are. I didn't even mention the fractional ones, but there will be base 3/2 and 1/2 and stuff like that. And so that's going to be the whole episode I film later today. And then another time I'll film base 2i, because that's becoming a little alternating series on my channel for a minute at least, is that every third or fourth episode might be about a crazy numerical base. And every fourth or fifth episode will still be a weird snack break possibly. So the next one on the channel could be the base one, or could be the one I already filmed that will take a minute to edit, that is about burning cacti. Thank you for the comment about how they can't see the board really. Sorry when I block it too much. I'm sure it's also pretty far. The streams are far more chaotic than my videos, but someday I'll have some team members to help me set it up while I go and make it extra clear. Thank you to all the comments. And someone's saying you could think of the summation formula for pi and work it backwards, but that is an infinite summation. So once again, we're going to encounter needing infinite amounts of digits. So a lot of cool birds squawking. I think those are the crows right now. You guys want to see some crows on a tree? My neighbors feed these crows peanuts. And so I don't know if you can see them up there. The camera's not that good, but there's crows up on that tree. The really pointy tree in the background. My neighbors feed them peanuts, and so they come around and flock and stuff. And once in a while, all the crows in the neighborhood decide to have their crow party on my block, and then you get like millions of crows squawking, like literally maybe thousands. It's many hundreds or thousands of crows on the block, but usually it's just a couple families that come by that my neighbors feed peanuts. So you guys are all awesome. I think for our last activity, we are going to look at a page from the book that somebody cued me to recommend earlier when they asked for my number theory book recommendation. So as usual, I would like people to pick a number. And in this time, let's see the maximum page. I would like you to pick a number between 1 and 300 and make it somewhere in the middle. Pick a number between 100 and between 50 and 250, and leave a number in that range in the chat, and we will take a peek at what that page holds, or sometimes jump one page earlier if we need to. We got 1, 2, 3, and let's see what's on 1, 2, 3 in this book. Oh, that's funny. You know how we were just talking about the golden ratio? Page 123, golden ratio. They decided to call it the golden number here, but that's it. That's funny. I love those coincidences. Now, what it's showing here actually is ways that the golden ratio actually could appear in flowers and stuff, although it's more mathematical. The page before we get this interesting grid that would take a minute to explain, but there's cool pictures in books like this. And yeah, there's a lot of flower bud spirals, and then it seems like this one is talking about the golden ratio a bit. So let's see. Like for example, here's one where it says, the arrangement of the larger branches on a tree is often more random, but there are some species of mountain trees in which the Fibonacci organization can be seen through the entire structure, even in the roots if you dig down to them. So some people like overrate where the golden ratio shows up in nature. It's not in like all the shells and flowers they talk about, but there are ones that it does because it mathematically is related to patterns of growth. You can really make an easy analogy. Now, if we go a little earlier, we're probably going to get just some crazy facts about them. Like they're showing how the Fibonacci numbers show up in Pascal's triangle. We got botany in here. This book is very playful and fun. Look, Phalotaxis is the name of that little sector. It says the botanical names for leaf arrangement is Phalotaxis. And then, yeah, they're talking about flowers and stuff. And if you go back a little, you can see one of the classic analogies for how they represent ways of growth, which is like if you had rabbits and each generation, any pair of rabbits that's more than one generation old produces a pair of rabbits. And, or no, there's a few ways of saying it. The way they say it here is that any pair of rabbits in a generation produces a pair of baby rabbits and then another pair of baby rabbits the next generation and then dies. And if each animal gets 2 generations, it plants. And there's a few other ways to define it too. They're similar. Starting with a pair of rabbits, because you need 2 to have a kid, then it makes Fibonacci's. In terms of how many pairs there are, if they each make pairs. Now, there are other ways to make analogies for it as well. If you go back, you just get some crazy math. There's guys called the Bernoulli numbers that I need to sometime make a video about, but they're just really trippy. They're like this weird sequence of numbers that is, if you just look at it, you're like, why does it have this irregular pattern? What does it mean? But it shows up in a surprising amount of formulas where it's like the nth Bernoulli number times this or whatever. So thank you to everyone who has joined. I'm going to leave pretty soon, but I am going to film a lot of stuff later. So there will be a couple of shorts coming out in the next few days because I got a couple of those planned to film. And there will also be episodes coming. Make sure you checked out the factorial episode I dropped recently. Also, make sure you've checked out the bonus videos I've dropped on this channel that are not shorts that less people have seen, like how to whip up modular arithmetic tables from scratch and some older ones. And I love you all. I think it is about time to get ready for my other stuff. The campfire has sizzled to a close. It's still smoking a bit. I thought the water would have fully put it out, but there's still a little bit going. So I'm going to just stomp that out a little bit, maybe, because if I go back inside, I can't leave this ember going. Maybe we'll just bring the hose back around for another session. This guy will be flipped another direction so that now the hose can get it a little better. And we'll try not to get the computer wet, of course. That weird noise is the hose, not the fire. The hose, uh, if you push it really hard, it doesn't do that, but it doesn't like being half pushed. Okay. And we might as well blow up a little balloon. Let's also have a note of celebration that today is the 3-month anniversary of me creating this channel, believe it or not. Some of these videos have been filmed since the earliest ones that go on this channel were filmed since around April, and the main channel was filmed a few months before that, even though the main channel dropped in May. This bonus channel, although some of the shorts were filmed in like May and June and stuff, did not get created. It didn't even have the videos come out until September 1st, but it got created on August 27th, 3 months ago. So that is absolutely insane that we have 67,000 combo lords here after that amount of time. I knew that we would get that many combo lords here someday, but I did not know it'd go that quick. So that's awesome. Thank you guys so much. I love you. That is so cool. And let's blow up a balloon in celebration. There's still an old balloon back there. I blew up 2 last time and I only see 1, so I don't know how the other popped, but might as well have one in the background. All right. And as we wrap up, unless anyone has any last comment they need to ask, check out the main channel in a few days for some more cool episodes, the negative bases and some snack breaks and stuff. Please consider helping me on the Patreon coming December 1st. If you can't, all good. Watching the videos helps too. And I love you all. So I'll see you later today in a short video, probably. And then, of course, since I like streaming, I will see you for one of those within a few days. Have a great one. Stay safe. Stay learning a lot of crazy stuff. And I'll see you next time.